I'm never buying a new guitar again, and neither should you. Okay, that's not entirely true. But I think once you hear what I have to say, it might make you think a little bit differently about buying a new guitar. So long story short, about 4 years ago, I decided to get back into playing after not really playing since like my teenage years. And in my teenage years, I just had a cheap Hondo electric guitar with a cheap amp. So I really didn't know anything about guitar brands or anything like that. Obviously, I knew the big names, but I had no clue coming back into this really what they're all about. So I ended up wasting a ton of money. Now, if you're watching this video and you're just getting into guitars, I've actually made a beginner guide and video that kind of goes over a lot of the basic stuff that I will leave a link down in the description for that. And before we really jump into it, I just want to make it clear, buying a new guitar isn't a bad thing. There's no wear on it, there's no mystery history, no wondering if there's, hidden repairs, how the previous owner treated it, things like that. So now, one of the things people really don't talk about though, and it's like this for a lot of items, right? When you buy a new guitar, it pretty much depreciates right away. Unless you're buying high-end custom guitars, guitars really aren't going to appreciate. So now let's go ahead and jump into an example. So I'm going over here to sweetwater.com, which is kind of a gold standard site for guitar enthusiasts out there. And I pulled up this Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s electric guitar in Bourbon Burst. They want $27.99 for it. That's a lot of change if you ask me. So now if we go over to Reverb.com, which is going to be another site that guitar enthusiasts love, and I think it's the biggest online used guitar selling marketplace, and we're going to check and see what they have. So I kind of already searched for the guitar, and I see down here we have a Bourbon Burst one here that's in very good condition. Ooh, but definitely has some damage, so don't want that one probably. But it is selling for $1,600. If that's something that you could live with, probably not the worst thing in the world. So if we go back out and we look for another one, let's see what we got. Well, we have a excellent one here. Your 60 is Bourbon Burst, and it's $18.99 with $59 shipping. Okay, not too bad though. You're still getting a pretty sweet discount. And one of the things about Gibsons that I like, since I buy and sell guitars a lot, they hold their value better than a lot of brands. Not saying that's why you should buy a guitar though. And now that you kind of see that depreciation and like how much you can kind of get off on a guitar used, it's actually really good if you're looking to go from kind of like a lower mid-tier to a high-tier guitar. So for example, I was able to pick up this guitar right here. This is an ESP E-II Eclipse in Snow White Satin. It retails for $27.29, but I was able to pick up an excellent condition one for about $1,700. So now I really like ESP LTDs, but they're kind of marketed towards the mid-range guitar in the ESP lineup, and they're made primarily in Korea, which has great build quality, by the way. But this ESP E-II Eclipse is built in Japan and is supposed to be, even better than that. So this was the step up. So I was still able to get the step up for $1,700. I mean, it is great if you're looking to get to that next level and don't want to pay retail price. So then another thing kind of be aware of too, especially if you start really getting into guitars and you start getting gas, the worst thing you can do is actually going in and trading your guitar. Because what happens is, I think it's kind of the standard for most things, unless you kind of have like a rare guitar. Guitar shops are going to really offer you about 40 to 50% on the used price of that guitar, not retail. So for example, I bought a Fender Ultra Stratocaster a while ago when I got back into it, and I got a discount on it, I paid about $1,900 for it. Took it into the guitar shop a year later. They offered me about $700-800 for it because that's just what the used market for the guitars were going for. It retailed for, I think $2,200 at the time, and now they're offering me like $800 for it. Ooch, did that sting. So I went ahead and just sold it on my own. I think I sold it for a little over $1,400 with like your 7.2 seller fees on most platforms and even shipping. I still walked out of there with, $1,200-1,300. So you definitely don't want to be taken when you trade in guitars. And now you might be sitting there saying, well, I only buy guitars once every couple of years. It's not a big deal to pay full retail. But what is great about having the depreciation built in, you never know what's going to happen. Something with your job could happen. You might need some quick cash, and it'd be great to know that you're not really losing too much money when you go to sell it. Now, I know one of the counter arguments might be like warranty, but realistically, you'd want like accidental warranty coverage more so than like defects in like the equipment or the hardware on the guitar. So if you are someone that bangs up a lot of guitars, like you just want to buy used anyways. So now a little buyer beware though. If you do buy a used guitar, right, chances are you're probably going to have it set up. So setup is going to be things like your string height for your action, going to be the intonation of the guitar, going to be truss rod adjustments, and we'll even say you'll probably just need new strings from the get-go. So even if you don't know how to do all that, even if you went to a local shop or found a luthier to do it for you, you're still going to come out ahead when you buy used over buying new. So speaking about coming out ahead, let's say you're someone who likes a guitar, looks great, but now you don't like the humbuckers or you want to customize something on it, you can buy the guitar for cheap and then you can just go ahead and add new humbuckers, new customizations, and chances are you'll still come out ahead than what you would be paying new. Because if you paid new and had to do all the adjustments on it, well, you're going to lose, money hand over fist. And now I know this from personal experience. If you upgrade a guitar, even if it's considered upgrades, it doesn't necessarily increase the value of the guitar. So when someone does buy a guitar, that you really want it as stock as possible, that I found for the most part. I know I have put new pickups and components in guitars. It didn't really increase the value that I paid for the component that I put in. So let's say I put $300 pickups in a used guitar. Well, I'm not going to get that $300 back. So a big thing is if you do customize a guitar, you're probably going to want to keep all the stock and original parts so you can either put it back in or you can ship those parts with the guitar if you decide to sell it. So when you're buying used, you really want to do your homework because there's definitely going to be some wiggle room. Remember, I told you that usually guitar stores, local guitar shops like that are going to pay 40 to 50% of the used market rate. So you definitely have a little bit of room to negotiate. So let me show you. So now if I'm over here on the Fender website, I'm looking at an American Ultra 2 Stratocaster HSS. That guitar retails for $23.59. Now let's go over to Reverb, the used guitar selling marketplace. It looks like there's one for $17.99 in excellent condition. So okay, that seems like a good price. And the guy has a make an offer. So you say, well, that's pretty cool. So what you can do is actually search for the actual guitar model, and what they'll have is actually a price guide for what things they're selling for. So you can see it kind of ranges. We're ranging into the $1,400 up to the $1,700. Now if we sort high to low, we can see that the low end is around $15.99, but what the price guide is showing us is a little bit different. It's a nice color, probably sought after more than one of these green colors. Is, I think a fair offer would probably be like $1,600 on it. And then he can come back and counter offer. So that's how you kind of negotiate here on Reverb.com. Again, it's a big used marketplace. And remember, as a buyer, you will be paying sales tax and potentially some shipping. So even though this is good and there's some good online marketplaces like this where you can make offers, really going into a store if you can is the best way about it. But for example, you go into a guitar shop, you see a used one up on the wall for $1,000. You can rest assured they probably only end up paying about $400 or $500 for that. So you could probably negotiate them down to $700, $800 with tax even in there if you got a good store. So again though, you go to a place like Reverb, you see the price guide, even eBay, you can search guitars and see sold by prices to get an idea. So you can really be prepared when you go to buy a used guitar. So again, I mentioned some of these sites, but where do you buy, right? You have like Reverb.com. I know eBay gets hate, but I've sold and bought a few things off there and had good experiences. You also have Guitar Center, but remember, you're buying used gear through them through the actual store. They're just reselling it. You're not buying from like a person like me. So they actually have really a policy where they don't negotiate. But they have so many guitars on there. And then sometimes they might actually like mislabel a guitar and you get like a really good deal. So definitely check them out. Then you got places like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. If you read kind of a lot of things from people online, those sites have kind of gone downhill over the years. So then you kind of also have to kind of be weary of scams. And I would say you're more liable to hit that on like a Facebook or a Craigslist over kind of like Reverb, Sweetwater, or eBay is they do offer some form of seller protection. Even though some people will say no returns accepted, if the guitar comes in a different condition than what was advertised, so if they're like, oh yeah, this is in excellent condition, and there's a bunch of like marks on the body, different tuners, really just anything, you can open up dispute and I think pretty easily get your money back. And that being said, one of the big scams though is the guitars will be real, but they'll be fake postings. So then they'll get you enticed by, a really awesome price, and then you'll message them and be like, oh, I want the guitar, I want this, and then they'll try to get you off platform if you're on like a Reverb or a Sweetwater, and that's where you have to say, no way, I'm not going to do that. There are fake guitars out there, and this video isn't really to go over all the signs on how to spot that, but again, going through a reputable, guitar shop or online retailer is going to help prevent that. Though if you search YouTube for like Guitar Center and them selling fake guitars, it does happen. But again, you're protected by a 45-day return window. You're probably going to find more fake guitars going to like a pawn shop, again, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. So just be very careful. That being said, one of the greatest scores I ever got was off the Sweetwater Gear Exchange. And I found a Gibson Les Paul Modern in Cobalt Burst. Yes, it's blue, it can be a little bit polarizing, but this thing was way better than expected. It was listed in excellent condition, but I would say it was pretty much mint condition when I got it. So I picked it up for $15.50, but what it didn't even say in the listing when I finally got it. It got plucked at Sweetwater, which is like a $299 extra. And then 2, it came with an upgraded tusk nut on it. So basically that's another like $150 in work. So if I were to buy this guitar outright retail, it would be over $3,400. And that is nothing to scoff at, I'll tell you that. So that being said, will I literally never buy another new guitar? No, that's not true at all. And just remember, even on new gear, you should be able to negotiate anywhere between 10 and 20% off. So you're never paying full retail. So if you're someone like me who likes to try out new guitars and play them kind of frequently, it is great to buy a used guitar because then when I sell it, the depreciation's already built in and I consider it more of a renting fee than an actual, purchase fee. So hopefully you found this video helpful and some of these tips can help you get a better deal on a guitar and heck, maybe even get you a better guitar than you initially wanted. That being said, I would love to hear what your best used guitar score was. Go ahead and post that down in the comments. And then also, if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you aren't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.